thoughts on being a defensive coach in an offensive league, the Big 12?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I interviewed at Oklahoma State. I can't remember, those years run together last year maybe, and didn't get the job. They hired Knowles. And a friend of mine on that staff said it's a graveyard for defensive coaching. So we'll see.
At least you were smart enough to come in the year after Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, they'll find somebody else around here. They don't hurt for players. So, anyway.
Vic, you've seen some transitions. You've been a part of them, and you've made him move with Neil and everything.
Yeah, I've seen some transitions.
His not his football philosophy. All the things he's talked about as far as life.
People are not even going to believe his plan. Right? It's so intricate and so detailed and so nurturing and so I'm not going to say loving is the wrong word. It's so parenting. I've got 3 sons and I've not done as good a job with them. I pray every day for angels to protect them because they're full of life and they have at it, and because they need protection. I've not done as good a job with them maybe as I would have liked to in retrospect because I was too busy raising other people's kids as a coach. But it is very much a parenting environment.
How much will you study the personnel, or will you get a clean slate? How will you go about it?
I've already pretty much got a depth chart. So, anyway.
Care to share it?
I mean, I will. No, and I'll be honest, one of the things that I don't do well, and there was a Clint Eastwood movie where it says man's got to know his limitations. I've only seen Outlaw Josie Wales about 1,000 times. Well, anyway, I know one of my limitations is names, so I have to do a real good job kind of studying names and remembering names, and so that's part of the process with me is just doing it. I learned by writing, so anyway, I don't know all their names yet. I know some of them,
but they're gonna transition from a scheme that was recruited to something different that you've got to do. So you got to figure out, obviously, what they can do to fit what you do.
Somewhat, I got to see what they do.
Okay.
And it's going to be a process, ongoing deal. It's the thing. Let's don't lose sight of this. You got to be able to bend your knees. You got to be able to have balance. You got to be able to tackle. If you're a defensive back, you got to be able to play the ball, and you can't be a coward. There's 3 kinds of football players. There's ones that seek contact, ones that tolerate contact, and ones that avoid contact. I can't do with any avoiders. Tolerate, we can kind of shame you into it, and we want the seekers. But you got to be able to play the ball. There's certain principles. You got to be able to use your hands with defensive line, and we don't need guys that have dead legs that just take up space. We call those matter guys that just take up molecules. And sometimes, though, you got to have a guy like that. Like if you're playing an odd front and you got a 330-pound nose guard, well, he's going to take up a couple of blockers. So that's a matter guy. He isn't going to make a bunch of tackles. You leave that for somebody else. I worked for a guy named Charlie Bailey, gave him my first job, and I'll never forget what he said. You get your bad players, you use up all the blockers so your good players can make the plays. There's a lot of truth to that. So, that sounds real simple. We're going to tackle every day. Coach Brown's going to have something in the practice schedule, and I'm sure it's going to be called a program period where we're learning how to get the ball out. We'll practice that every day. And you work on those fundamentals, and you work on transition to secondary, you work on pad level and hip flexibility. And I mean, there's more that goes into it. That's why all these buildings are here. That's why that weight room's there. There's all this stuff is to teach these guys how to be better, and we're just going to make sure that they get every opportunity to get better.
How tough was it to leave Troy?
Excuse me?
How tough was it to leave Troy?
Yeah, not easy. And some of y'all will find out that I have to bite my tongue sometimes because I've got my dad. I'm my dad's son. My dad basically just says it the way it is, and I don't know if that's a sign of being elderly and retirement. You really don't care what you say, or it's just the way he's always been. I've got a son that's a little bit like that, so I just think that's just the way he is. I did think that, that the head coaching job there would be pretty cool, but my wife she thought it probably wasn't the best thing. So I said, well, I'm just going to trust in God and see where He leads us, because He gives us the path for us to lead and for us to do the best we can with that path. And this is a path that He real quickly directed. And once I was aware of that, man, it's ready to go. I was packed long before